Gender ideology is coming crumbling down in the UK, which is good to see. The story being from Ofcom on this one, of all people. So Ofcom have decided they're not going to buy in to gender ideology for people who are abroad. Ofcom is the regulatory body of the UK government for online communications, offline communications like TV, radio, that sort of thing. I think they do expand themselves into online communications now, but they're like trying to get in the door, which worrying. But
I think that's the online harms bill where they're trying to get Ofcom more involved with the internet, aren't they?
But they've actually done something good, so I thought we'd go through it. So this is Ofcom's tweet. We've recently reviewed our relationship with Stonewall and have decided to withdraw from its diversity championship scheme. They're getting rid of the diversity champion scheme because they don't want to be involved in that anymore, because Stonewall is obviously an insane organization run by lunatics, and who would want to be involved with that?
It's good to see that the Conservatives are actually doing conservative things.
Yeah, the Conservative government, this being a government body, need to do the right thing, which is to get themselves away from these kind of extremists, and this is a way to do it, which is to stop giving them money. I mean, it's weird that the Conservative government effectively is subsidizing leftism through these means. Anyway, so if we go to the next link on this is the full statement, so I'm just going to go through this. So Ofcom says, first, having laid the foundations that will help us improve support for LGBTQ plus colleagues, we are confident that we can move ahead positively without continuing with the Diversity Championship program. I do love that. Turns out diversity does have an end. You know how the progress never ends meme? Apparently they're done. They don't need the advisors on diversity anymore. Well, in which case, every company presumably is at a point where they are supportive of LGBTQ plus people. Therefore, you can fire everyone in your HR department who wastes their lives on this stuff and put them somewhere where they'll actually be productive.
That would be so good for the economy, just all of that wasted, inefficient money that a company could divert to making products cheaper or services cheaper. It's just being sucked up by these HR people who are just dead weight in companies a lot of the time. Sorry if you're a HR person, I'm sure. If you're watching, you're probably one of the better ones.
If you're a HR person who spends all your time on, identity ideology, then yeah, you are kind of wasting your life at this point, especially. I mean, you're always kind of wasting your life with identity ideology, but whatever. What's done is done. So if you're a company that wants to move forward, I guess you can point to Ofcom and say, that's the way. We no longer need to pay for these people because surely we are an inclusive company. Oh, we are. Then we don't need to pay for this anymore. Done. Anyway, they say, second, in recent months, there has been a significant scrutiny of some of Stonewall's policy positions. In Ofcom's case, we have considered whether our relationship with Stonewall poses a conflict or risk of perceived bias, because, of course, they're a government body. They can't be biased. That is number one. I please hope that the British police are listening and start taking off their 7 bits of flair that they have. Oh, you can move up to 23, I guess. Stepping back from the Diversity Champions program in light of this is the right thing to do. As the communications regulator, an important part of our responsibility is to ensure that we remain impartial and independent at all times. Good. I mean, being grown up, being sensible. These people are clearly very partisan with gender ideology.
I mean, I'm amazed that it's taken this long, really. I mean, it's entirely obvious if you look into Stonewall what they're all about. They're not exactly secretive about it, are they?
No, they're clearly far left on this sort of stuff, and in which case you should not be involved if you are a sensible organisation, particularly if you're a government organisation, British police. Anyway, but the last part of this statement makes me confused. Our commitment to supporting the rights and freedoms of LGBTQ plus people is as strong as ever. We will continue to participate in Stonewall's Workplace Equality Index, which is widely recognised as a strong benchmarking tool for employers to measure their progress on LGBT plus inclusion in the workplace. Right, if Stonewall are clearly a partisan organisation, you have said in this, then why would you want anything to do with them at all? I mean, it's right for them to say, well, stop giving them cash, but then you shouldn't be involved with them at all. Otherwise, that is, of course, an act of bias said by yourselves. So that doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, I don't really understand why they wouldn't just sever ties entirely if they're admitting that they're biased and then also admitting that they've got some degree
responsibility.
Yeah. It's very strange. I suppose they're just trying to cover themselves, like public perception-wise. Like they're not severing their ties entirely, where it might look like they're being somehow discriminatory, at least.
It does make me scared that they're prepared to just cut the money for now, and then as soon as we get a Labour government sometime in the future, they'll just put it right back to being funding them.
Oh yeah, it's very dependent on the Conservatives remaining in government, isn't it?
I don't know whose remit this comes under, but whatever minister is responsible should make sure that every department underneath them is stopped funding all ties with Stonewall. not just the money ties, let's say.
They shouldn't even be a charity, really. They're a political activist company.
Yeah. So, in case you're wondering why this is such a great victory and good, because Stonewall is crazy. So, if we go to the story on this was a while back. Stonewall boss defends new strategy amid criticism. So, she said, comparing TERFs to anti-Semites in a statement, with all beliefs, including controversial beliefs, there is a right to express those beliefs publicly and where they're harmful or damaging. Whether it's anti-Semitic beliefs, gender-critical beliefs, beliefs about disability, we have legal systems that are put in place for people who are harmed by that, saying that freedom of speech had its limits, such as saying that women are women or that Jews don't deserve to exist. Those are the same thing. Those are the same category of speech.
I imagine if you just asked the average person on the street whether those were comparable things, they would think you're on your way to an insane asylum, probably.
Yeah. So this was the head of Stonewall.
Thinking?
And this was in an interview after they were getting questioned for some of their extremism. And she was like, yeah, let me double down. Like, that was the interview she gave to the BBC. And then they refused to take any calls after this interview for quite some time. And they're just like, oh, you want us to come on and debate something? No, not now. Not feeling it. All of a sudden. Yeah. So Liz Truss did the right thing. So if we go to the next one here, we have the Times article. Liz Truss urges official withdrawal from Stonewall diversity scheme for all government departments.
Good.
So she didn't have the power to do this. She only has power under the Equalities Department that she's in charge of. But it's up to the Cabinet Office to do it for all government departments. And the Equalities Department she's in charge of did pull its funding. Like, with nothing to do with them.
It's not going to be like the diversity training where it's going to sneak into the different departments again under a different guise, though, is it?
Maybe, but I mean, this in specifics is about money. So the money the Equality Department was giving to Stonewall, gone. And now with Ofcom, gone. I mean, sure, there's the stuff they mentioned that'll still be part of the index, but the money is gone, which is important, and it's a very good step, so they deserve applause for this. I also love how all the like front bench conservatives who are going to be like the ones you'd expect to rise up are kind of like women, which I find funny. Like Liz Truss, Kemi Badenoch, Priti Patel. I mean, these are like the front runners of like who's based. I just find that really funny. Anyway, moving on. So in here, the scheme counts for 250 government departments and public bodies among its 850 members, which pay for guidance on issues such as pronouns and gender-neutral spaces. Piss it up the wall. That's what they do with our money. These government departments, 250 of them. Ofcom's one. There'll be a bunch under the Equality Department and whatnot. I mean, all these different bodies, they're all signed up to ask Stonewall, what pronoun should we use? And Stonewall goes, use they, them. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Have some cash. That's the interaction.
It's not even good value for money, even if it was a worthwhile endeavour, which it isn't. But
which is why it's been described and is obviously a racket. It is one where Stonewall says we're the chiefs of good and virtue because we're tolerant and diverse. And if you're not on our list as a an employer who's good for gay people or whatever else, they have all these indexes as mentioned. Therefore, you're bad. So they're going to use that as a stick to beat government departments, and they've been doing it very well, getting quite a lot of cash out of it. So if government departments were to do this, as we've shown before, if you actually look at Stonewall's income, they would go from a net positive, I think it's like £800,000 a year, to a net negative of £200,000 a year. The government is the thing propping them up. They would be burning through their cash reserves if the government just went, yeah, we're not going to be partisan.
So
taking our money back.
Hopefully it's going to be, a matter of a couple of years, unless they find other funding, before they just have to admit, we can't run this anymore. Yeah,
the extremism is extremism, and therefore had no role to play in government, specifically under a conservative government as well. Like, if you are going to be partisan, as the Labour Party has in the past, they made all these organisations openly pro-Labour ideology, well, therefore you do it for conservative ideology, right? But the Conservatives don't do that. The best they can do is at least be non-partisan, by just saying, we're not just going to give out cash to nut jobs. We're just going to do the government thing that we're paid to do, instead of just handing out subsidies. Anyway, so if we go to the next one, we have some other messed up stuff. So this is the recording of the story. Media watchdog Ofcom quits Stonewall diversity scheme. Stonewall said it fully respects Ofcom's decision, but it's sad that the scheme is seen as unimpartial. I'm not sure that's a word, but okay. I don't know why they're sad about it, because it obviously is crazy.
I'd be sad too if I was missing out on easy money, to be honest.
Fair. Hundreds of private and public organisations, including the BBC, writes the BBC, are members of the Diversity Championship Scheme. Well, there's another one. Liz, in case you're wondering, if you've got an afternoon and you're a bit bored, call up the Director General of the BBC and be like, pull this money out, because this is taxpayers' money. This is not for you to piss up the wall for your own ideology. Or just defund the entire BBC, frankly, but another reason. In return for the annual payment, members receive advice on issues such as the use of personal pronouns at work and whether single-sex toilets should be accessible to transgender people. Again, yeah, this is not going anywhere.
These are definitely questions that need an entire organisation to answer.
£1 million or whatever it was they're getting from the taxpayer to tell you about pronouns.
Oh, it's beyond parody, isn't it?
Yeah. Ofcom is the latest organisation to leave the scheme. In March, the Equality and Human Rights Commission announced it would also withdraw, citing cost issues, which is wonderful. Thanks, Liz and Kemi. In December, Ofcom's chief executive, Dame Milan Dawes, appeared to suggest at a parliamentary select committee that the BBC should not talk to a charity called LGB Alliance, which has emerged as a rival to Stonewall. Because, of course, there are people who are activists for gay tolerance and all the rest of it, the traditional types who are coming at this from a liberal angle of equality under the law. They've all split off from the communist equality of outcome folks, and they've made their own organisation, LGB Alliance. And then you've got Stonewall, who are like, yeah, but what if everyone who's gay is trans? I was like, right, no, you people are crazy. I'm not going to interact with you.
At least that's a lot easier to say, the LGB Alliance, than all of the letters that I'm finding it impossible to remember now.
We have a cutoff point. It's about the sexuality of being gay or straight or bi. Although I love John's comment on this, which was that the L and the G's are the same thing because it's just gay. Like gay women are lesbians, but that's just gay again. So technically it's the GB Alliance. So it's Great British Alliance, which is great. Anyway. So afterwards, Ofcom said that the Dame had not meant to imply that broadcasters should not talk to gender-critical groups. And today they told me that her comments at the time had been misinterpreted, and that she was simply seeking to make a point that all in-air debate must be balanced. By saying that you shouldn't talk to the opponents of gender ideology, that keeps it balanced.
Right.
Yeah. No one believes that.
Perfectly sane view.
But I'm glad that she has effectively been pushed into the position that, yeah, we should be impartial, and now she has got the funding to Stonewall. In May, a barrister-led report into 2 incidents from the University of Exeter where female academics who were accused of transphobia had speaking engagements withdrawn, found that Stonewall may have given incorrect and potentially illegal advice to the university, something Stonewall denies.
That was the University of Essex, by the way.
Sorry, Essex, no. Sorry, got messed up. But the fact that they're also just giving out potentially illegal advice to these universities to get their opponents deplatformed from public spaces. I mean, you cannot get a more perfect example of these people are insane, far left on gender ideology. They are also happy to use leftist tactics of suppression. They're going to take money from the government whenever they can, and they're also going to censor anyone who disagrees with them.
Isn't encouraging deplatforming now something that goes against the actual law? Because I know Gavin Williamson was protecting speakers at universities, wasn't he?
Yeah, the new guidance got published that you have to protect the speakers at universities in response to this kind of bullying from these extreme left organizations. I mean, again, the evil right wing being like, yeah, universities are a place for everyone. Radical position.
I know, when that's being portrayed as the bad and kind of immoral position, you've got to question it. Just like, yes, we want to include everyone. We don't want to deplatform people.
Just because they're...
So evil. You're such a bigot for doing so.
Yeah, whereas Stonewall were giving advice that you should deplatform people because they're transphobes. Transphobes, what does that mean? Well, apparently it just means that women have vaginas. That's the position that is transphobic. The Liz Truss position. The UK government position.
The majority of psychologists' positions as well.
But also biology's position, but never mind.
Of
So
course.
let's go to GB News. So there was a clip, GB News, talking about this on Woke Watch, which I'm always glad to talk about because I like Woke Watch as a concept especially. So let's play the first clip of Andrew Doyle talking about this.
I think a lot of people are going to be confused as to why it seems to be prominent gay figures who are coming out against Stonewall. And the reason for that is Stonewall of today is not what Stonewall once was. That's what sort of happened is after gay marriage in 2013, you suddenly have this situation where all of the major victories have been won and we have complete gay equality under the law. That's not to say that homophobia was eliminated, but on paper everything was great. And that gives a kind of crisis of purpose to Stonewall. And a lot of people, some cynical people, or maybe just sensible people, now think that Stonewall pivoted into the trans issue and trans ideology because they had nowhere left to go and they needed to justify the continuance of government funding. I think there's a good argument for that. I think that also is misunderstood because I think a lot of people think, well, hold a minute, if all they're doing now is campaigning for equality for trans people, what's wrong with that? And there's nothing wrong with that because we all agree with that. That's not what Stonewall is about now. It's not about trans equality. What they are about now is pushing gender identity ideology.
I mean, everything's sensible from Andrew Doyle there. And a correct assessment. The only thing I would maybe bring him up on is the idea that some people, as you say, argue that it's a cynical move from Stonewall. I wouldn't really. I mean, the rigging of money from the government certainly looks like you're just trying to get cash out of them. But generally speaking, I would not say that these people are grifters in the sense of just saying.
Yeah, I think they genuinely believe
believers of their nonsense.
100% agree. I mean, it's not anything that's too extreme from the current dialogues on the left, is it? It's not like it's a massive anomaly where you could say, okay, they're just grifting. I mean, it's in keeping with the ideology that they surround themselves with.
Is a grift, but the Stonewall types, the people are the activists who run Stonewall and are the extremists who propagate things like gender critical beliefs is the same as anti-Semitism and should have you sent to prison if you say it, because that's what happens in the UK if you say anti-Semitic things online, for example. Yeah, these people are nuts, and they're also in line with just Labour Party speeches. So I think they genuinely do believe it. But other than that, I mean, I love how he mentioned as well the fact that you can see the liberal split, as he mentioned. So him making the point that, well, we kind of won all of our victories under the law, the liberal position of equality under the law. Then everyone just kind of left. All the liberals were like, well, job done. Go home now. Go home and be gay. And no, the socialists are not interested in that sort of thing. They all stuck around.
Of course they would. Yeah.
So anyway, the Ho's mad. Ho's very mad. So this is another thing to be very happy about this. If the Ho's aren't mad, then we've done nothing. When the Ho's are mad, I think it's a good barometer of if you've actually hurt the left, is how butthurt they are about the thing. You see it.
Ho's? What are you, some rapper now?
No, I just like saying Ho's mad. The Ho's being the left. So I've got the first one here. This is Joe. I don't know who Joe is. To my trans followers, please remember there are many, many people who don't believe your mere existence is divisive, or that you're in danger to women, or any equivalent nonsense, and that the T is as important and valued as all the letters in LGBTQI+. I mean, first thing...
He's a comedian, by the way. I've actually... I went to the comedy store in London, or whatever it's called, and he was one of the people that was there. So
Sensible.
He's actually one of the better comics as well, which is a shame to see this.
Yeah. It's no one is arguing that the existence of trans people is divisive. No one said that. Also, no one said that the existence of trans people is necessarily a danger to women. The argument is whether or not you should put men who identify as women in female changing rooms, refuges, and so on and so forth, prisons. And we don't have to speculate in the UK. I know the US might not be there yet, but we have the cases, of course, as we mentioned before, of Karen White. Got to respect that name, because she is definitely a woman who sexually assaulted the female inmates in her prison with other women.
Great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just obvious nonsense. These people don't live in reality land. Instead, they live in this fantasy where trans people are some kind of perfect angels. They're not human. I mean, they are perfect angels, never do nothing. Yeah. But also the idea that the T is as important and valued as all the letters in LGBTQI+. What letter is plus? Seriously, what letter is plus?
I mean, we look at this kind of stuff quite a lot throughout the day, and I still don't know what the plus stands for.
Anything. I mean, no barriers. I mean, no barriers whatsoever. I mean, when they talk about inclusivity, they're talking about destroying all barriers, and therefore the plus has to include everyone, surely. People
who are into bestiality, they're included. They're just as valid, apparently.
If leather fetish is a sexuality, the sick Fs who engage in, let's say, illegal activities, they can also argue that that's their sexuality, as they do when questioned on this sort of thing. So I want to rethink the plus there. I mean, this is why I quite like the LGB alliance. So they're like, no, here's a line. Like, here's our definite line. People who are attracted to same sex or different sex. That's it. That's all we are. We're staying there. We're not steering into any other territory of this is totally a sexuality, I swear. Like Mr. Leather. Anyway, let's go to the next one. So there's some people being mad that apparently not being partisan is a partisan position, according to the left. So really, Ofcom, we have considered whether our relationship with Stonewall poses a conflict or risk of perceived bias. This is astonishing and unsurprising at the same time. If the regulator of comms doesn't support all people, isn't that itself bias? # trans rights are human rights. So if you're non-partisan, if you decide, we're not going to touch the gender ideology debate because we're here to regulate radio, to make sure no one's swearing on the radio, you weirdos can have your debate elsewhere. That's them engaging in bias because they're not endorsing our position.
I like how the left always act as if their opinions are just a given fact, whereas quite often the right can at least recognise that their opinions are opinions and that there is some existing debate. Like, they're so far gone that they're just like, there's not even a debate. even though there is a debate and they're participating in it right now.
It's a fantastic point. Like, rightists always do have this perception that they're at war with the left about their ideas, but there are two different ideas. They think the lefts are absurd, but they are ideas. But the leftist position is always, we're right. If you don't agree with us, that's you being partisan. Even if you're in a non-partisan position of saying, I'm not touching this with a 50-foot pole. So we have another one of someone doing this, another ho who's mad. Ofcom stated they pulled out because they, quote, need to remain impartial and independent at all times. Completely sensible. You can't possibly create an inclusive workspace and be neutral in the context of upholding equality. It's just utter nonsense to suggest otherwise. We can't achieve socialism without being neutral. Yes, that's the position he's arguing here.
It's also very strange to see inclusive workplace, because if you work for any kind of competitive business, it's not really inclusive. It's a meritocratic institution, right?
Every job is exclusive.
Yeah,
There's only one person who can have it.
Mm-hmm. And quite often, if you're not up to scratch for the job, they'll get rid of you. That's not inclusive, because they're not including people who aren't as competent as others.
Yeah, but you can read through the lines here. He's just like, yeah, we need to uphold equality. Equality is not a liberal value; it is a socialist value. And yes, you will not uphold equality by being neutral, because you have to be a socialist to uphold equality. And therefore, if you are neutral or liberal, you're the enemy. That's the position of him. And that's why no government body should be involved. Doyle also mentioned there were the high-profile gays who keep leaving Stonewall to attack it, and I thought we'd go through some of this, because it's great. So Simon, if we go to the next article here, Simon Cowell, the actor and veteran gay rights campaigner, has condemned the strange turn to the tyrannical taken by Stonewall over self-identification for transgender people. Cowell, who was involved in the anti-government protest that led to the foundation of Stonewall in 1989, said, quote, extraordinarily unproductive militancy now surrounds its position. Its uncompromising mood risked infringing women's rights and could put pressure on young gay people to transition, he said. And it was a sign of the times, and he felt nervous about the reaction he would stir up with his comments for simply expressing his views. I mean, the people who founded Stonewall, the liberals, as Doyle was pointing out, who went with it for the gay toleration movement and then achieved that, and were like, going home, got a husband, bye-bye. They're in disgust of what it has become, because, of course, it has been taken over by leftists who are obsessed with this sort of thing. I love where he also points out the idea that you have gay people turning trans, which is a criticism a lot of gays have been levelling at Stonewall, because it seems to be true. So Stonewall has been accused of also using a workplace equality scheme to coerce publicly funded organizations and companies to lobby for changes in the law. Yeah, so the top 100 employers for LGBT, or top 100 employers for I don't know, Muslims, or any of these kind of organizations. You always see the little badges, especially on government websites. It's a con. It is them coercing public bodies in becoming agents for them, especially with changes in the law.
They're getting paid to influence the government as well, which is the real travesty here, is that the government and the taxpayers, so us, are paying these organisations to then have undue influence against our own interest.
I mean, it's all kinds of sickening on a democratic level. So if for some reason you're not convinced that this is doomed, I thought we'd take a look at cutting edge gender ideology from Libs of TikTok, giving us an example. I thought we'd just end on this, could be fun. So the point here being that, well, if you for some reason are in agreement that Stonewall didn't do nothing, well, then you have to come up with a counter argument for everything coming out of TikTok libs. Otherwise, your ideology has to end somewhere, bro. So I thought we'd just enjoy some cringe. Let's play this.
People who identify as Alexi-gender fall under the gender fluid umbrella, which falls under the non-binary umbrella.
What on earth is that?
Which falls under the trans umbrella. People who identify as Alexi-gender are fluid between different genders, but never know exactly what gender they are at a certain time.
Schrodinger's gender.
Some Alexi-gender friends, however, may understand that they feel more feminine, masculine, androgynous, or neutral at a certain time, but not the exact term for the gender that they feel. And they might not ever feel any of those things, but still not understand what that means. Either way, not every Alexi-gender friend is the same as another Alexi-gender friend. But we love other Alexi-gender friends! Yeah!
I mean, besides the obvious cringe, but the point there, they're making up new genders, as usual. Alexi-gender, which means literally anything. If
they don't know what gender they are, surely that is just... You can call that gender dysphoria, right?
Yeah.
That's just the condition, gender dysphoria. It's not its own thing.
It's not controversial. But I remember yesterday there was a clip Cole played of some girl had gone up to a teacher and been like, "Are you messed up?" And the teacher started laughing because it was, she found it rude. And it's like, look, when even your position is, I messed up. I don't know what gender I am at any given part of the day, and it can also be all three of the ideas that I've made up in my head. Then, yeah, you're looking messed up. Anyway, I thought we'd just end on this nice little meme. So my response to this, if there was any other, just by Allah, you people are dogs, I will go on as usual. You don't know this meme?
No.
Oh, I love Memory TV. Thank you for watching this clip from the podcast The Lotus Eaters. If you want more from us, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to get access to all the premium content that we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff there. So we've been doing this for quite some time, so we've got a huge library of content in various different categories. Now, some of my favourites have been the book clubs. I'm personally a big fan of these because it means we get to read good books and important books, extract the useful information out of them, such as with this Roger Scruton's Where We Are, which is a very interesting conservative take on the current culture wars and the state of Britain at the moment. So we go through and explore the meaningful concepts. And here's one that you and Bo did with Frank Dicotta's Mao's Great Famine. It's absolutely brilliant and harrowing to read. And so when all the comments on this happened to be, well, this was vile, we knew we'd done a good job with it. And we also have many other premium series like the Contemplations, where Hugo and Josh just go through and find something very interesting to talk about, such as this one talks about the idea of political representation and does it work, or is it a bit of a myth? And of course, we have the history content, which probably my personal favourite. In this particular one, myself and Bo talked about the achievements of Frankish warlord Charles Martel. Do you know what he's famous for, Callum?
Stopping the Muslims at Tours.
That's right. And we also do a bunch of premium videos and interviews and things like this. So in this one, we happen to have an interview with Michael Malice, who's a very, very charming guest, and I very much enjoyed this one. And we also do a bunch of premium podcasts about stuff that perhaps isn't appropriate for YouTube or various other platforms like that because of, some things outside of their editorial bounds.
So if you'd like to get access to all that premium content, please go over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe for as low as £5 a month.